Greetings and welcome to this episode of the RR Show. I am Vince, and we're going to do something today that we have not done in a long time. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to have a single story episode. This thing is very long, very interesting, so let's do this episode of the RR Show right now. Our first and only story in this episode comes from r/cults, posted by user Awakening Mystics. Can a cult just be a couple people? Here's why I'm asking. Hi everyone. It's been about 2.5 years since I initiated abrupt no contact with a man my ex-boyfriend considered his father and essentially fed me for 3 years, who manipulated me to the point where I was isolated from my family, believed that I'd be cursed if I had any photographic evidence of him, and that all good things in my life were because of him. This is the tip of the iceberg. It was awful. I wanted to end being here. I never told anyone about it until the day the man, he went by Sir, but his real name began with the letter D, threatened to come to my workplace with my ex-boyfriend. I'd broken up with him months prior, and tell my boss that my ex dumped me because you were having an affair with a crew member. I was management at the time, and D was aware that management and crew were not allowed to date. So to use this made-up story against me in my workplace after I escaped him and went no contact was terrifying. D, aka Sir, had such a chokehold on me that I spent months, years trying to win the lottery for him, via trying to find patterns of numbers on hundreds of sheets of California lottery numbers. He'd yell at me on the phone and in person, telling me that if I didn't cooperate, I'd be desolate with no good fortune or opportunity in life, and that by winning the lottery for him, we'd all be happy and successful. We'd compare lottery number sheets to Florida, Georgia, anything he could get me to believe there was a fixed formula to win the lottery. He did. Whether it was throwing tantrums or icing me out for days to punish me for not being focused or motivated by the number formulas, he did it all. My ex, we'll call him A, worked 2 jobs, sometimes 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. Both of these grown men. A was about 27 and at the time, D, 53, used me for my money and my time. D was unemployed and had never had a job before because he got too sick absorbing other people's energy. He made me sign him up for food stamps and pull out a personal loan, which he told me to lie to the bank and say it was for renovating my parents' home. He asked me for $20,000, and what an absolute miracle that I was denied the full amount and only given $5,000. He paid me back with 2 checks, each for $115, and never the remainder of the loan. He told me to deposit those checks only once he gave me permission. I have a copy of my original check to him, which said loan on the bottom left line. I was about 28 or 29 at the time. Intelligent, but trusting of others, with big dreams and lots of spunk. I do not use the word manipulate lightly, so when I say it, I mean that now that I'm out of the situation, it was 100% coercion using religion and spiritual threats. They told me that if I didn't support them, that I would be jinxed. They used lots of stories about how Sir predicted the injury of their friend's face, the pregnancy of another friend, and tons of other occurrences. One summer, Sir sat in his big, creepy, inherited house full of mirrors and antiques, while A and I painted his entire patio in 85-degree heat. We often trimmed his bushes, watered his lawns, and he stood over us to watch us chop pieces of the bushes into smaller pieces using very dull shears, so that the small pieces could fit into the green waste can. He micromanaged absolutely everything. We had to chop garlic using his dull knives, not the sharp ones, and I learned the hard way not to question his extremely particular preferences. D would call me upwards of 20 times a day from no caller ID to make sure I was home, working on the lottery or his ghost repellent business, which was actually bottles of ammonia, which he made me design, print, hand cut, hand tie, hand design, everything. I was forbidden from ever not answering the phone at night, even if using my GPS driving in an unknown place at night, because ignoring was the highest form of disrespect to him. If we ever showed disrespect, he'd cut us out for a day or two, scream at us, and get us to realize how absolutely awful we were to him. One year it was A's birthday, and A and I went to eat at someplace nice. And Sir was so offended that we went to dinner without him. After everything I do with you, fine, you're on your own. A would get so angry with Sir's control that he developed a drinking problem and punched dents into his car's ceiling. Later that night, he called to explain that he was actually so grateful that Sir was so insanely strict with him because he sees things I can't, and he's protecting me and you. We need to be more thankful. I worked crazy hours and was told to sleep with my ringer on loud, and Sir would take every opportunity to call or text when I'd only have about 3 to 4 hours of sleep. He'd tell me to get ready and work on the lottery because the system is changed. Get ready so I can explain it to you. But the system changed daily, every single day. He was so convinced there was a solvable formula, and he'd get me to crack it. And maybe there is, I just couldn't do it. A told me in front of Sir to kiss Sir on the cheek for good luck. Sir looked at me, waiting for it, and I just felt like throwing up, so I didn't. I always felt like throwing up around him. A kissed him on the mouth once, and after I asked him why he was okay with that, he said, "What? Oh, people in Europe do that with their dads." He wasn't his dad. However, he was a tarot card reader who his mom and her friends went to have their lives predicted. A and I were not allowed to be physically intimate because bad things would happen to Sir. We could not have friends because too many invisible to us forces out there trying to curse and bring D and A down. I did not show up to my close friend's wedding with A because Sir had a feeling that something like a shooting was going to happen. A was forced to sleep in his car at the mall across the street from Sir's house because of petty occurrences like locking the garage door by accident. "Do not disrespect my people like that," he was told. I spent all my drives to their house and back, shaking in fear, wishing I could exist in a dimension other than this one. I knew that if I died, Sir and his people would curse me for an eternity, but being alive felt like a curse itself. I was in agony, total agony. I can't describe it any other way. Whenever my mom asked A about his family, he immediately changed the subject to, "Got any trips coming up, or what are you cooking?" He was extremely charismatic and handsome, but now I see it was a farce. He knew how to get what he wanted out of people. His boss and co-workers even gathered their hard-earned cash for him as a kind gesture, which made me cry tears of joy. But now I see A gave his money to Sir. He would make sure not to mention work bonuses to him because Sir would get upset if he didn't give it to him. A had cuts in his arms a few times, which A says were caused by Sir because I deserved it. A was physically abused by his mother as a child, so that is another layer to this. A and Sir told me more than once that Sir's saliva was healing and medicinal and made things heal faster than they ever could. Sir occasionally got leprosy, which made him stay in his room for a few days and not even be seen. I never saw any evidence of it. He picked at the dry skin on his hands, but that's about it. One eye bulged and twitched when he got mad, and when he lied, I believe. They both told me that he had the ability to lose 40 pounds in 1 week, and that A had seen it done. Sir's diet was comprised of Pepsi or Coke, microwave meals or fast food, rocket pops, and chicken tacos. We'd have to shell out $50 each whenever we went out because he'd order drinks, sides, entrees, desserts, everything. His favorite thing to buy him was P.F. Chang's. He refused to drink water unless it was Hint brand flavored water, but he rarely drank them. His whole day was spent binge eating snacks, I don't remember which, yelling at service providers on the phone, and gossiping on the phone with his female friends. He got mad that his sweet elderly woman friend S's husband did not want to lend him money, even though he knew they had savings. He watched his video camera that pointed to his brother's house across the street and made me stare at the monitor screen when he left the room to alert him of his brother walking outside of his house for any reason. He made voodoo dolls of his brother's sons and did curses on them. He put a photo of A's coworker's face. She complained about him and had some behavior issues at work in a small bowl of ammonia, and they did a ritual thing asking to get rid of her, and she was fired the next day. One of the last things Sir, aka D, said to me on the phone before I cut him off was, "If you say anything badly about me, I'm going to skin you alive." I will never forget it. I don't know what happened, why it happened, or if they're still doing it to others, but I noticed there is a different variant of D's name registered with his regular name on Spokio. I will never, ever, ever to see either of these two man boys in person, as I will become either paralyzed in terror or completely lose my marbles. I want my money back, but I mostly want justice for the agony they put me through. What would have seemed like a bunch of silly lies was presented to me in such a precise and calculated way that it overrode any sense of logic and common sense for me. In fact, it was so intentional and calculated, even though I always felt sick to my stomach and skeptical about them. I was pulled in regardless. A would reassure me that I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but you have to trust me. Sorry for such a long post. I wanted to give context, and it is actually kind of therapeutic to write out. Can this be considered a cult? Can legal action ever be taken? So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.